Mr. President.
Senator from California.
Mr. President, the Trump administration is corrupt. It is easily the single most corrupt and lawless administration in American history. And it would be exceedingly difficult to debate that simple proposition, because notwithstanding all of the whataboutism we occasionally hear, there is really no denying it. The self-dealing by unelected billionaires like Elon Musk, the presidential meme coins, the quid pro quos, the dismissal of corruption cases in exchange for help on the president's policy agenda, the dismissal of national security personnel, not on the basis of national security, but on the word of right-wing cranks, the deportation of someone to a maximum security prison in another country on the basis of a clerical error, the mass illegal firings, the reckless use of commercial apps for classified information, the scorning of court orders, the phony math to hide the deficit exploding impact of tax cuts for billionaires, the attacks on Social Security, calling it a Ponzi scheme, when people are making the attacks, those that are making the attacks are the con men who want to raid the hard-earned retirement funds belonging to our nation's seniors and veterans. The swamp is full, it is overflowing, and Donald Trump is standing right in the middle of it, up to his ears in the filth. And it is plainly obvious to anyone who is watching that the president simply doesn't care about anyone but himself.
Patriots, welcome back to Right View Nation channel, where we cut through the noise, expose the lies, and defend the truth, liberty, and the American way. Now today, we're reacting to something that honestly, well, it would be funny if it weren't so dangerous. So Adam Schiff, yes, the same guy who spent years peddling the debunked Russia collusion hoax, is now out here calling the Trump administration the most corrupt in American history. Yeah, you heard that right. Let's unpack the madness, because this speech is a masterclass in projection, misinformation, and sheer political theater. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell before we break it down.
Not you, not your families, certainly not the American people. He is in it for himself. While your retirement savings are being wiped out, he's playing the back nine at his country club. Oh, caddy, would you hand me a number 6? Now the Trump administration's abundant corruption doesn't happen in a vacuum. His corrupt self-dealing doesn't just boost his own bottom line and that of his wealthy donors. It hurts everyday Americans. It hurts Californians. It hurts all of us. So let me give you some examples. Days before Donald Trump was sworn in, he took one of the most obviously corrupt actions of his political career. And that's saying quite a lot. The president took to Twitter to announce that he was launching his own cryptocurrency, a meme coin. He would maintain a vast ownership of the stock in it, but anyone in the world could buy in, from a Chinese national under indictment in the US to any sultan in the Middle East looking to buy influence, and predictably, the meme coin just skyrocketed. On paper, he appears to have made billions on it. It's possible he made more in one day from this joke cryptocurrency than he had made in his entire life up to that point. You might recall a press conference he had when a reporter asked him at the beginning of his presidency, are you going to continue to traffic in this coin and this currency that's making you a lot of money? And the president's question to him was, well, how much is it making me? And when the reporter said, well, it's making you a lot, the president was delighted. Turned to, presumably off camera, Elon Musk or one of the billionaires and said, well, that may not be much to these guys. And there was great laughter to be had. The corruption is out in the open. And the thing about this new currency is that it's a message to anyone who wants to curry favor with the president. Whether it's foreign governments or oligarchs or wealthy Wall Street billionaires, it gives them a chance to literally buy Donald Trump's favor, directly, corruptly, and unmistakably. Now, who does that ultimately hurt? Short answer is everyone else. So maybe a billionaire is buying a bigger tax break, but that means hardworking Americans are going to have to pay for it. Or maybe it's someone under indictment for fraud who can now get their case dismissed by Donald Trump's DOJ for the right price in meme coin. That hurts every American because it just invites all kinds of further corruption. Now the president's kids are in the crypto business, and there are even more opportunities for graft. In other parts of the world where there are long traditions of such corruption, they would be called princelings. There's a name for them. They're called princelings. Well, congratulations, America. We now have our own princelings, and they are called Eric and Don Jr. Now, as it turns out, it's not just by buying Trump meme coin or the kids' crypto investments that may help get the Justice Department to drop your case or get the Justice Department to go after your enemies. Since Donald Trump's first day in office, he has methodically and meticulously purged the Department of Justice of anyone who is not blindly loyal to him. Not loyal to the rule of law, mind you, not loyal to their oath, but loyal to the person of Donald Trump. That is and will be the only standard in this department. It is not a coincidence that the top 3 lawyers running the Justice Department, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, are all former Trump criminal defense lawyers. Their client was and always will be the multiply indicted and convicted felon who occupies the Oval Office. So how does this hurt everyday Americans? Well, it does so in a few ways. First, it means that the department's resources will be focused on all the wrong things. The DOJ should be focused on keeping Americans safe. It should be focused on cracking down on violent criminals and addressing the fentanyl crisis. It should be hunting down fraudsters who scam Americans. But instead, they're focused on retribution, on going after Trump's enemies, on helping those who were loyal to him, and wasting countless hours and resources in the process. But also, Trump is using the DOJ now to protect his friends and allies. You don't have to look any further than the case in New York. The mayor of New York, Eric Adams, indicted on serious corruption charges. A mayor who then, seeing the writing on the wall, pursues a kind of quid pro quo with the president. He goes down to Mar-a-Lago, and the quid pro quo eventually becomes as plain as day. It is out in the open. The president's own border czar does a joint interview sitting next to the mayor on Fox and Friends on their couch to lay out the stark quid pro quo in exquisite detail. All that was left unsaid by Trump's border czar were the words, "or else." The mayor would get his case dismissed, and in exchange, he would pursue the president's policy agenda when it comes to immigration. If the mayor was guilty of serious corruption, of bribery, of providing political favors to foreign nations in exchange for lavish gifts, and even the Trump DOJ doesn't deny the evidence against him, that just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, not if he is a political ally of the president. So who does that hurt? Well, it hurts New Yorkers. It invites more corruption in the city of New York. But this trend, of course, hurts everyone. A big corporation screwing over consumers can seemingly prevent investigation or prosecution now by kissing the ring. Just takes a trip to Mar-a-Lago. A corrupt politician can continue to leverage government resources for their own gain, knowing that they may never be held accountable for their actions. You can even storm this building, and they did. You can storm right into this chamber, and they did. You can trample American democracy. You can beat police officers in the name of this president, and not only will your prosecution be dropped, but you will be pardoned and celebrated. And beyond that, the public servants who prosecuted you will be removed, replaced, or demoted. They will be purged. by using the Justice Department as a shield to protect his friends and a sword to go after his enemies, it is the American people who will lose. Now, just down the street from the DOJ, at the Food and Drug Administration, there is something less talked about, but also quite sinister going on. Elon Musk and his many companies owns one, among his many companies, owns one called Neuralink. Now, this is a company that is aiming essentially to implant computers into people's brains. Now, while I am not personally one to want a Elon-sponsored device shoved into my cerebral cortex, I do believe in responsible innovation, and I even celebrate it. But unfortunately for responsible innovation, within weeks of entering office, Elon and Doge had fired essentially the entire team at the FDA's Office of Neurological and Physical Medicine Devices. You guessed it, the office in charge of reviewing his product. Gone. That sent a pretty clear message through the agency: get on board with Elon or you're out. It feels like par for the course for Elon, but it is really unprecedented in this country. Especially damaging is the fact that this also occurs at a time when they are just massively laying off people at the FDA. Huge cuts in the folks that make sure our medicine and food are safe. Not only does that mean life-saving medicine doesn't get reviewed and deployed faster to the American people, it means that dangerous stuff gets into circulation much longer before it can be stopped. Or maybe if it just gets to slip through with a wink and a nod and a big enough contribution to the Trump meme coin. And if you thought Elon stopped at the FDA, well, I have some more news for you. Doge has pulled the exact same move at other agencies, providing oversight over him or with which he has contracts. The FAA, where Elon Musk has desires for contracts for his Starlink satellite system. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, where Elon's companies face a significant threat of oversight, or at least they did before he made that agency largely go away. Or NASA, where Elon's SpaceX has billions in contracts. The Pentagon, more contracts for Elon. And now FDA. You can't find more corrupt self-dealing than that. Not in our history. You may be able to find it in other countries, but until this administration, you couldn't find it here. Now, in the category of good news, I guess if you're really wealthy, there's some good news for you at the IRS. And that is Donald Trump and his buddy Elon are gutting the IRS, tearing apart the agency that ensures that rich folks pay their fair share in taxes so they can't and don't scam the system. Well, by firing thousands of IRS employees, thousands of tax collections of rich folks will never occur, and billions of dollars that could be used to help our communities will never materialize. They're gutting it so that they can say it doesn't work, and then they can gut it even further, all to reward their billionaire friends. But it's worse than that. Much like the DOJ, it seems clear the Trump team has every intent of weaponizing the IRS to go after their enemies. They can order audits against people who speak out, protect those from audits who toe the line. Those attacks won't be just on big business, but also prominent political enemies. They could come for anyone who dares to speak out. A small business that sells a product they don't like, a nonprofit that supports a cause they don't like, they get an audit. But the president's wealthy buddies, no, they do really well. But this gutting of the IRS, this tax giveaway to people by gutting the IRS, this isn't the biggest con. This isn't the biggest con, not by a long shot. Because the biggest con involves trillions of dollars. And that, of course, is the tax cut. How they pay for it and how they don't. Donald Trump, who solicited untold sums from billionaires in the form of campaign contributions and shady schemes to enrich himself, delivers in a way that those donors could hardly imagine. Massive tax cuts for the wealthiest among us, paid for by cutting Medicaid and other vital services, and by borrowing a ton of money from your kids and grandkids, sinking the nation further into debt. Tax cuts for billionaires and more. Well, if you're one of them, that's great news. That means time to buy another yacht, or maybe another vacation home, more money to invest in the stock market, and they may need to, given what the Trump tariffs are doing to the market right now. But that's what their contributions bought them, a few billion here and a few billion there, and pretty soon we're talking about serious money for these wealthy donors and large corporations. But the thing is, these tax cuts aren't free. Yeah, they're using this phony math they call the current policy baseline. It's a phony math that says if you spent $3,000 on a vacation last year, you can spend another $3,000 this year and it won't cost anything because it's the current baseline in your family. But the reality is these tax cuts aren't free. Somebody's going to pay for them. Well, it won't be the real wealthy that pay for them. Everyone else is going to pay for them. Working Americans are going to see their costs skyrocket. They're going to see their retirement accounts plummet and their Social Security and Medicaid ripped apart to give more money to billionaires. And here's the thing, they don't even pretend anymore. They are happy to admit that their multi-trillion-dollar check that they're about to write to billionaires will be paid for by everyone else. Not just in dollars, but in the programs you rely on, programs you paid into your whole life. Medicaid on the chopping block, Social Security, offices closing, phone lines unanswered. They want it to slowly die on the vine. Food assistance going the way of the dodo bird, and the list goes on and on and on. Life will get harder and harder. That is, of course, unless you're a multi-billionaire who wrote a big check to Donald Trump, which, if he doesn't bring about a global recession, just might turn out to be a pretty damn good investment. During his campaign, Donald Trump promised his wealthy donors that he'd make them even richer by cutting their taxes. He invited many of them to his inauguration. Some even got to stand on the stage with them as he was sworn in. This is who Donald Trump is for. He is for them. He is for the really, really rich. That is whom he represents. We are for you. I yield back.
First off, Schiff opens with some dramatic nonsense about President Trump being the most corrupt leader in our history. This from the guy who lied to the American people, read a completely fake version of the Ukraine phone call into the congressional record, and used his power to launch sham investigations. You want to talk about corruption, Adam? Maybe start by looking in the mirror. Schiff accuses Trump of launching a meme coin to enrich himself, with zero evidence. It's a wild conspiracy theory. But let's entertain it for a second. Even if Trump had created a crypto project, how is that any different than the countless business ventures launched by politicians from both parties after leaving office? Barack Obama's book deals made him tens of millions. Hillary Clinton made $675,000 in one speech to Goldman Sachs. But somehow, when a conservative makes money, it's corruption. The double standard is astounding. Now here's where Schiff really shows his cards. He attacks Eric and Don Jr., calling them princelings, a term used for the spoiled children of authoritarian leaders. That's not political analysis. That's a personal smear. These are two men who built businesses, support their father, and haven't been handed millions through foreign pay-to-play schemes. Can we talk about Hunter Biden, the laptop, the Chinese energy firms? Schiff won't touch that because the facts don't fit his narrative. Then Schiff claims that Trump purged the DOJ and filled it with loyalists. But what's happening right now under Biden? The DOJ and FBI have been weaponized to target conservatives. Parents at school board meetings labeled domestic terrorists, Trump allies raided by the FBI, pro-life activists arrested at gunpoint. Meanwhile, BLM rioters walk free and Antifa gets a pass. Let's not pretend this one-sided lawfare is just a Trump issue. It's happening right now, and it's being cheered on by people like Schiff. Schiff really goes after Elon Musk, blaming him for everything from Neuralink to NASA contracts. Why? Because Elon dared to buy Twitter, rename it X, and start exposing the corruption in big tech and government censorship. Let's be real. They hate Musk because he's not under their control anymore. He's a billionaire who believes in free speech and innovation, and that terrifies the left. He complains about layoffs at the FDA and the IRS, and I say, good. These are bloated, overreaching bureaucracies that waste taxpayer dollars and abuse their power. The IRS especially. Schiff wants to protect an agency that just hired 87,000 new agents under Biden's administration. You think they're going after billionaires? No, they're coming after small business owners, the middle class, and conservative groups, just like they did under Obama. Schiff claims Trump's tax cuts were the biggest con in history. You know what I call them? Relief. Millions of Americans, including small business owners, got to keep more of what they earned. That's not corruption, that's economic freedom. But to Schiff, if you're not funneling every dollar into big government, you're a villain. He tries the old scare tactic, saying Trump and Republicans are going to raid Social Security and Medicaid. That's a flat-out lie. What conservatives want is reform, so these programs are sustainable for future generations. We don't want them to collapse under the weight of mismanagement and unchecked spending. But the left would rather scare seniors than fix anything. Look, here's what this is really about. Adam Schiff and the rest of the DC swamp know they're losing control. Trump exposed their lies, Elon Musk disrupted their censorship machine, and Americans are waking up, so now they're resorting to pure propaganda. Smears, fear, division. But we're not buying it. We know who Trump fights for. He fights for us, the hardworking Americans, the patriots, the forgotten men and women the left loves to ignore until election season. So if you're tired of the lies, the corruption, and the elitist disdain for ordinary Americans, stand strong, speak out, and never, ever let people like Adam Schiff rewrite reality without a fight. This is our country. Let's take it back. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We've got more truth coming your way, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. God bless you. God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America.